Hey there, my crafty friends. This is Terry Marcus with the Yaya Collection, and I had posted these snow globe cards that fold flat for mailing, and I had a lot of questions about how to do them, and had done a lot of research on the internet. So I'm here to show you how I've decided to do them, taking a couple of different women's ideas and trying to make them my own and see what worked for me. So first thing is, this is what you will need. You'll need some cardstock. I used 2 pieces of 12 by 12, 110 pound. That'll cut your base and your rings in 2 circles, one for your message and one to mount the back piece on, which is this is the piece that I'm talking about, your designer paper. You'll need one piece of 12 by 12 acetate. I've used both 5 mil and 7. Both worked fine. The designer paper I've used 6 by 6 and scraps. So the biggest piece you need is to cut this 4 3/4 inch circle. Then red line tape. I'm not going to use red line today, and it worked, but just to be careful. And then either 1/4 or 1/2 inch tear tape, and then liquid glue. And then this is your base. And this is how you make it. I have this loaded in Cricut Design Space, and I will link to that page. You can cut everything out on your Cricut. So your base, you'll want a 10 by 4 piece of 110 pound cardstock, and you're going to score it at 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 6, 7, 8, and 9. On the Cricut, I've got it set to cut here, but if you're doing it by hand, you're going to want to score again at 1/2 inch up until the 3rd score line that you already did, and then angle over to the 4th. Do the same here at 3 1/2, score up to here and then over. You're doing that to give yourself a cutting line to go by, to cut it by hand. That's only necessary if you don't have a Cricut. And then the same thing on the other side. The only place you're going to put glue on this base is here, 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 and here. So in those first 2 sections. Okay, so once you get this cut out and you cut those pieces off, this is the shape. So you can see where I've cut up to the 3rd score line, 1, 2, 3, and then angled over to the 4th. So this is the bottom of your card, and this is what holds everything in place. And then I've got glue. So you're going to cut 5 rings, and this is what I'm calling rings. And these are your rings. So I do 1 on each side here, here, and then 1 on the front here that attaches to the solid back. So the outside is 4 3/4, the inside is 4 1/4. If you've got nesting dies that you can do that with, that's great. If not, remember in geometry class, a compass, you put the little point here and put your pencil at the right measurement. You can cut it by hand. Then you need 1 circle that's 4 3/4, and that's the message. Although for there, I just used what got cut out of the inside of here. You do want 1 that's 4 3/4 to mount your designer paper on for the back. And then 3 pieces of acetate. I hook my acetate together with one of these so I can find it. So you'll need 3 pieces of these, 1 for each of the globes. All right, so let's get started. I've done a lot of this ahead so you don't get bored and have to watch me. So I've already put my back one together, put the acetate on. I've done the middle one, and we'll go over all that. So I'm doing the last one that the last circle that we have to put together. So with this 1/8 inch tape, all you have to do is just keep kind of walking it around and use your finger to push it down. It'll be wrinkly, but I'll show you what to do about that. And you want to just go all the way around the inside of this circle. I try to stay in the middle, but that doesn't happen always. And this goes surprisingly fast. So you're just going to do this on one side of each of your rings. So in order to make it adhere, know that it adheres, is I'm going to take my bone folder and just go around. And that makes sure that my adhesive is adhering to my paper. Then when you take it off, I don't know if you can see the shiny, but the tape is there. And then I just carefully lay my acetate down until I get about halfway around, and then I let it drop. If you make, mine are actually cut at just between the 4 3/4 and a 4 1/4. But if you do a 4 3/4 and it hangs off, just trim it. All right, so this is your front of your card, your finished card. So this is just going, I'm not putting anything on it. So I'm going to put my other ring on. I'm going to put a little bit of glue around the edge. Glue helps give me a little bit of time to line everything up. And I know it's going to be attaching to acetate, but for me, I've got a little bit of a paper border here. But mostly it gives me time to maneuver. So I carefully, and then again, I walk it around trying to line it up. And then when you get about halfway around, you shouldn't have a problem. And then there's your other ring. Now, this little piece in the Cricut, it's a 1x1 piece, and what you'll do is lay, it's a rectangle, you'll lay this down on your 1x1 piece and then cut it to get the angles, because quite frankly, my angles did not match when I put it on the Cricut. So nothing's perfect, it's handmade. Now we're going to start constructing the base. First thing you want to do is on the end here, and this is after you've made sure all of your score lines are well burnished down. You're going to make this into a square, so this last score line is where it's going to sit, and you want to make sure it goes in there straight, because this is what's going to hold up your circles. So as you can see, this is the back of my card. So there's that, and it will fold to go into a 5x7 envelope. So you want to make sure that you can manipulate this very easily back and forth. Then go ahead and do the other side. We're only doing this end one to get the shape of our base. Come on. There you go. Okay, and again, it's going to tuck in right at that. And you want to look at these together to make sure they're even, because you're going to trap one of your circles in between there. So you want to make sure everything is all squared up before you put it down. And I just use my bone folder to make sure that it's all rubbed down well. Okay, so this easily goes back and forth, so I know it's going to fit in my 5x7 envelope. And here's my 5x7 envelope. So you want this to be able to fit in there. Okay, now we start putting it together. And quite honestly, this is probably the most difficult part of this whole project. I watched a lot of videos, and one of the women did it this way. Everybody had their own way of doing it. So I kind of adapted it. Agreed, we want to make sure it's going to fit in this envelope. So this is where we're going to start. This is the back, this is the front. So you start with your back piece. And I'm going to fold this down, and I'm going to leave a little bit of room on the bottom of it for room inside the envelope. And then I'm going to decide for my design, because it's all the way around, what I want to be right side up. And then how far do I need to put it down to make sure it gets in the envelope. And then I want to center this between here. And then I make a mark. That's going to tell me, excuse me, where I'm going to have to adhere this. So it's a little low. I'm going to look at this and see. So if I put the lines there, well, it's good. It's still up from there. I didn't want it to be on the very bottom. So the next thing I do is I take my 1/4 inch tape and I see where my lines are. I'm going to put my tape just under those lines. Okay, so the tape will adhere to the adhesive, no problem. You know, that was under it, so I want to do that to get it to adhere. Then you don't want to push that adhesive back because you don't want it on the outside. So I mush it this way. Okay, so I can still see my lines. This is the back of my card. I'm going to put a little bit of glue again because it gives me time to move things around and get it straight. You want it centered between the edges of your base. And then you can push down. Okay, I use a sanding eraser because it doesn't mark my paper. Need to wait for that to dry. Okay, so that's my back circle adhered. There's my back circle there. This one I did not put a white piece on for a message because this is a light enough color card. But on the navy one, I just took one that had been cut out for another card and put it there. All right, now we go to the middle one. So my middle one, to give it some three-dimensional when it's done, I cut out some under the sea things from Pink and Main, and I glued some on the back, and you can see where I've glued them here. Put a tiny little touch of glue there, and then I glued her. I don't know where I got her from. She's a die all by herself. And then this is another piece from Pink and Main. So you want these so that when you're done, they line up here when the card is open. So again, you want it to fit into the card. It's going to fold flat. This is up against here. So is my next one. And then I take my ruler, and I love this Tim Holtz one that, dang it, he doesn't make anymore, or I would buy about 5 of them. I love it because I have markings this way and this way. And I've been doing 3/4 of an inch. So I put 3/4 on here. And then I have the top of it touch. So I know this will fit in the card. I want this against the side to keep it centered. And I'm going to make it just a hair more than 3/4 of an inch. So I made it 7/8 of an inch. I wanted this down a little further on this card. So 7/8 of an inch. I can push this down. Again, if I've got everything lined up here, everything is straight, then again, I mark here. So I know this will fit in the card, to recap. So no problem with this piece. But I want to make sure this piece and this piece line up this direction. So I've made my mark. Everything's against here. And then once again, I'm going to double check it. So that I see when it's standing up that everything is lined up. So again, I've got my lines. I'm going to put my 1/4 inch tape across there. And I think I'm going to use this down here because it's so tiny. And then burnish this down. So again, my tape is just below my lines. I'm going to once again fold my tape up into here. Put a little bit of liquid to give me some time to move things around. Now this time I've got to undo these because we want these to now stick together. I don't know how you all do it if you keep a clean workspace. Mine starts out clean and then it looks like a tornado went through it by the time I'm done. But I try. Here we go. All right, so we're going to line up those lines with that score mark there. Make sure it's centered. Make sure everything's lined up here. And then we're going to close it up. Okay, now for my final piece, this will get a sentiment on it and probably some more flora and fauna from the ocean once I decide what I'm going to use this card for. But again, I'm going to flatten it out, but these up here, hope you can see this, because I can't see my camera when I'm doing this, sorry. And I did 7/8 of an inch there, but it ended up at 3/4. So I'm going to mark this at 3/4, get this lined up, and then you're going to have to just see where this comes to is where your score line is. And you're going to have to put it on the back. So this is the same for me at this point on either side. So I'm going to put the tape here and then flip it over. Burnish it down. When you burnish your tape, it makes it much easier to get it off. Okay, and again, I'll make that piece go up there. Put a little bit of glue. So now I need to line it up and keep it straight. And you are going to see, but because I'm going to put a sentiment on it, once I'm really done with this, you won't see anything. And there you go. So eventually I'll have a little sentiment that sits across there, so you don't really see the tape too bad. But see how it's three-dimensional and it folds flat. It fits in the envelope. Now, it may need extra postage depending on what all you do. No problem. And it sits up just fine. So there you go. That's how you do it. Thanks for watching. Let me know if you have any questions. I'd love for you to post if you make this and see what you come up with. I think it could be a birthday card, a Valentine's card, anniversary card. Wouldn't it be a cute wedding card? Well, what about for somebody welcoming them to the neighborhood with houses and stuff on it? The possibilities are endless. This is really a very creative card. I don't know who came up with it at first. I'm going to put the two women's names in the description. That really inspired me, and I learned a lot from them on how to do it. But again, I took it and did some things different to make it my own, and I encourage you to do the same thing, and that's how we all learn. So thank you so much for tuning in. Again, this is the Yaya collection, and I appreciate you subscribing and commenting and sharing if you like the channel and enjoy learning with the rest of us. Again, this is Terry Marcus. Thanks. Have a great day.